I swear I'm not normally the jealous type, but there's a line you just don't cross when you're with someone. My name's Sharon, I'm 29, and I'm about to tell you how I nearly burned my whole relationship to the ground over something that wasn't even happening. Michael and I have been together for just over 2 years now. We met at my cousin's wedding. He was the DJ's assistant, looking all professional but still giving me these little smiles whenever our eyes met across the room. We exchanged numbers, went on a few dates, and the rest is history. The reality? Our relationship has been shaky these past few months. We moved in together back in January, and let me tell you, nothing tests a relationship like sharing a bathroom and figuring out who's responsible for taking out the trash. Lately, Michael's been distant always on his phone, staying up late playing video games with his boys, and canceling our plans to hang with his friends. I've had my fair share of bad relationships. My ex before Michael, total piece of work. Caught him texting 3 different girls, all with those stupid little heart emojis next to their names in his phone. After that mess, I promised myself I wouldn't put up with disrespect again. Last Friday, I decided enough was enough. I told Michael we needed a date night, no phones, no friends, just us reconnecting. He suggested this new sports bar downtown that everyone's been talking about. I spent 2 hours getting ready, picked out my cutest outfit, even wore those uncomfortable heels he likes because I was really trying. The place was packed. Friday night rush, big game on. The hostess seated us at this tiny table with a terrible view of the TVs. Michael seemed distracted, checking his watch, looking around. When I asked if everything was okay, he just nodded and said, "Yeah, just seeing if they're showing the Knicks game." Dinner started out fine. The food was decent, and for a minute it felt like old times. Michael was telling me about this promotion he might get at work, and I was actually starting to relax. Then I noticed it. Michael kept looking over my shoulder, his eyes darting to the same spot every few minutes. I turned around to see what was so interesting. And there she was, this girl sitting at the bar, maybe mid-20s, long curly hair, wearing this tight red dress. Every time Michael looked in her direction, she seemed to be shifting in her seat or flipping her hair. I turned back to find Michael's eyes following the same path again, not even noticing that I'd caught him. Something inside me just snapped. All those insecurities from past relationships, all the little doubts I'd been having, they all came rushing to the surface. I thought about how he'd been acting at home, how distant he'd been, and in my mind it all suddenly made perfect sense. I sat there for another 10 minutes, watching him sneak glances when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Each look felt like a tiny betrayal. The worst part? He was smiling, like he was enjoying this little game. I couldn't take it anymore. My hands were shaking under the table as I watched Michael's eyes drift over my shoulder for the 100th time. When he actually had the nerve to smirk, something in me just broke. "Are you serious right now?" I snapped, loud enough that the couple at the next table turned to look. Michael's eyebrows shot up. "What?" "Don't. What me? You think I don't see you staring at that girl at the bar? The one in the red dress?" My voice was getting louder with each word. "We're supposed to be on a date, and you can't even respect me enough to keep your eyes to yourself?" Michael looked genuinely confused. "Sharon, what are you talking about? I'm not." "Don't lie to my face." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. People were definitely staring now. "I've been watching you this whole time. Every 2 minutes your eyes go right to her. You think I'm stupid?" "Sharon, please, you're misunderstanding." Michael reached for my hand, but I yanked it away. The restaurant had gone quiet. I could see the hostess whispering to a manager, and the girl at the bar had turned around to see what the commotion was about. Michael's face had gone from confused to mortified. "You know what? I'm done." I grabbed my purse. "Enjoy the view." With that, I stormed out, nearly tripping in my heels. Michael called after me, but I didn't stop. I heard him apologizing to the staff as he threw money on the table and hurried after me. Outside, I was already flagging down a rideshare when Michael caught up to me. "Sharon, please. You've got this all wrong," he said, breathing hard. "Save it. I know what I saw." The car pulled up. "Don't follow me home. I mean it." The entire ride home, my phone blew up with texts from Michael. I ignored every single one, my fingers flying over my screen as I wrote a vague but pointed post. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Done being disrespected. Within minutes, my girlfriends were commenting with fire emojis and "Know your worth, sis." Each notification felt like validation. I got home and immediately called my best friend Keisha. "Girl, you will not believe what just happened." I fumed, pacing our apartment. I gave her the whole rundown, my anger building with each retelling. By the time I finished, Keisha was as outraged as I was. "Throw his stuff out," she said. "You don't need that kind of disrespect." I was pulling Michael's clothes from the dresser when I heard his key in the lock. I braced myself for the confrontation. "Sharon, we need to talk about what just happened," Michael said, his voice eerily calm as he entered our bedroom. "There's nothing to talk about. I saw you." "No, you didn't, because I wasn't looking at any girl." He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "I was trying to read the television menu above the bar. They were showing scores from the Knicks game." I scoffed. "So now you're doubling down on the lie? That's low, even for you." "It's not a lie. The television was mounted right above where that woman was sitting. Ask anyone who was there." I shoved a half-filled duffel bag toward him. "Maybe you should stay at Derek's for a few days. I need space." Michael looked at the bag, then at me, his expression a mix of hurt and disbelief. "You know what? Fine, if that's what you want." He grabbed the bag, stuffed a few more things into it, and headed for the door. "When you're ready to actually listen, let me know." The door slammed behind him, and suddenly the apartment felt too quiet. I checked my phone, saw more supportive comments from friends who only knew my side of the story. For a brief moment, I wondered if maybe I'd overreacted, but then I remembered the look on his face when he kept glancing over. No, I knew what I saw. He was just trying to gaslight me now. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Tanya, another friend who'd been at the sports bar with her boyfriend. She wanted to check if I was okay after the situation. I called her immediately, expecting more validation. Instead, what she said knocked the wind out of me. "Sharon, I think there might have been a misunderstanding," Tanya said cautiously. "After you left, Jamal and I moved to your table to finish our meal, and we realized something." "What?" I asked, suddenly feeling uneasy. From where Michael was sitting, the only way he could see the Knicks score was to look up at the television directly above where that woman in red was sitting. The angle was terrible. You either saw the television or you didn't, and you were seated with your back to it. "That doesn't mean—" Jamal said he was having the same problem seeing the game from his seat. Tanya continued. "And that woman wasn't even all that. She was with her husband, Sharon. I watched them leave together." After we hung up, I replayed the night in my mind. Had there really been a television above the bar? I pulled up the restaurant's Instagram page and scrolled through their photos. Sure enough, there was a television mounted high on the wall behind the bar. Just to be sure, I texted our server from the night before. "Hey, quick question about last night. Was there a television showing the Knicks game above the bar?" Her response: "Yeah, the only one showing that game. Bad placement, TBH. Half the customers were complaining." My stomach dropped. I scrolled back through Michael's texts from last night, actually reading them this time. "I was looking at the television score, Sharon. That's it. Please come back so we can talk about this. I would never disrespect you like that." The realization hit me like a splash of cold water. I'd been wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. And I'd created a public scene, posted about it online, and kicked Michael out all over nothing. But even as this truth settled in, another part of me started making excuses. Why hadn't Michael just told me clearly what he was looking at? Why had he been so distant these past few weeks anyway? If he'd been more attentive lately, I wouldn't have jumped to conclusions so quickly. I deleted my social media post, but not before taking a screenshot of all the supportive comments. Something about them still felt validating, even though I now knew I'd been in the wrong. I sent Michael a text, not an apology, but an opening. "We should talk. Can you come by after work?" While waiting for his response, I called Keisha again. "So, turns out Michael might have been telling the truth about the television," I admitted reluctantly. "Oh," Keisha paused. "Well, still, he should have made it more clear what he was doing. And he has been acting different lately, right?" "Exactly." I latched onto this lifeline. If he'd been more present in our relationship, I wouldn't have been so quick to assume the worst. Michael texted back, "I'll be there at 7. No other comment, no emoji, nothing to indicate his mood. I spent the afternoon rehearsing what I'd say, focusing less on my misinterpretation and more on how his behavior had contributed to the situation. By the time 7 o'clock rolled around, I'd convinced myself that while I may have been wrong about the specific incident, I was right about the bigger picture. The doorbell rang wasn't using his key, a small detail that spoke volumes. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Michael stood there looking tired, a day's worth of stubble on his face. He'd clearly slept poorly at Derek's. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, the distance between us both physical and emotional. I found out about the television. I started, wanting to control the narrative. Tanya explained the angle from our table. Michael nodded but didn't speak, waiting for more. "Look, I might have jumped to conclusions about what you were looking at," I admitted, choosing my words carefully. "But you have to understand why I reacted that way." "Do I?" His voice was quiet but firm. "Yes, because you've been so distant lately. Always gaming, canceling our plans, barely talking to me. What was I supposed to think?" Michael sighed deeply. "Sharon, I work 50 hours a week. I game maybe 2 nights to decompress. And the plans I canceled were because my mom needed help after her surgery, which I told you about." "Well, you should have made it clearer." "Made what clearer?" He cut me off. "That I wasn't checking out another woman? Should I announce every time I look at a television? Do you know how exhausting it is walking on eggshells, worrying how you'll interpret every little thing I do?" His words stung because there was truth in them, but I wasn't ready to shoulder all the blame. "I care about you, Sharon," he finally said, softer now, "but I can't keep doing this. The accusations, the public call-outs, using my stuff as leverage, that's not healthy." I felt tears threatening but held them back. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to change how we communicate. Both of us." He paused. "And honestly, I think you might benefit from talking to someone about your trust issues." Part of me wanted to lash out at the suggestion, but a smaller, quieter part knew he might be right. "I'll think about it," I conceded, the closest I could come to admitting he had a point. "And I am sorry about the misunderstanding." It wasn't a full apology, and we both knew it, but it was something. Michael nodded, accepting what I offered. "I'll stay at Derek's a few more days. Give us both some space to think." As he got up to leave, I realized we were at a crossroads. We might work through this, or it might be the beginning of the end. Either way, I knew one thing for certain. I needed to take a hard look at myself and why I was so quick to assume the worst. But that would have to wait for another day. For now, all I could do was watch him walk out the door and wonder if he'd ever use his key again.